Okay, I gave a talk back around 2017 in Dubai to a group of people. They had asked me to come talk to a seminar. It's on the Golden Visa through Portugal, and it was basically talking about the likelihood if you put in the minimum requirements to get citizenship and the passport in Portugal, what are the chances of getting it? Now, when the talk that I actually gave was in 2017. Remember, the Portuguese program started in 2012. So it's basically a 7-year program. So you're looking at 2019 roughly before some of these would actually to come through to find out how successful people were in actually getting the passport, just putting in the minimum requirements in the Portugal program to get that passport. Now, this came out in my newsletter. I'm going to just go through a couple of steps here and what they were talking about in the results. Now, they talked about here that some Portugal Golden Visa investors aren't getting citizenship in year 5 despite meeting the residency requirement. Now, remember, it's a 5-year residency period, and then you apply for permanent residency in 6, and then you get the passport roughly in about 7 years. Now, they were just talking about here that the Portuguese program that was first heralded with the change in the nationality outlaw in 2017, it was confirmed as viable with the first successful cases in 2018. The route to Portuguese citizenship on the basis of spending the minimum mandated 35 days over 5 years and mastering an A2 level Portuguese test, the language test, and has become a leading competitive advantage for the program. Now, you're also supposed to spend 7 weeks in the country over the initial 5-year period and then learn how to order basically a beer at a restaurant, and you've got the passport. Now, they went on to say that that has been the conventional wisdom and the basis for the marketing that compares Portugal's Golden Visa favorably to Greece, Spain, and Malta. Now, they went on to say that they had previously confirmed with several local lawyers that many Golden Visa investors have indeed obtained citizenship by fulfilling the minimum presence and language requirements. Now, earlier this year, however, they said that they had begun hearing about discerning whispers about rejections in such cases. Now, they went on to say that, we now confirm that 2 different cases, where people were actually getting the results of this. They were getting some sort of results from this, but it was, they were also finding quite a few cases of people that were not getting the passports, even doing the requirements. They basically went through and found out that there were 2 cases that some of the Golden Visa investors are now getting their applications for naturalization in year 5 rejected, despite having spent the necessary 35 days in the country and not much more, and then having reached the stipulated level of Portuguese proficiency in the language test. Now, why are these people getting rejected? Well, they stated that they talked to lawyers in Portugal, and these are the 2 reasons they're telling why they're getting rejected. Number 1 is matters of naturalization in Portugal governed by the Nationality Act and its attendant regulations. And they were talking about here that the number of years of residency required before becoming eligible for citizenship was reduced from 6 to 5 years. And then the other one was the requirement for prospective citizens to demonstrate a connection to the Portuguese community was removed. Now, this is a very gray area because it's not really, how do you determine what's, a connection to the country? That's the problem. There's not anything really in the act that states, what you really have to do there. So it's going to depend on who really checks you out when you get your citizenship and how are they going to view it. When it followed the amendments to the Nationality Act, the regulations were expected to change as well to reflect the legal alterations. Corresponding changes to the regulations, however, have not yet materialized. Now, while the Nationality Act says that anyone who has been a lawful resident in Portugal for 5 years is eligible for the citizenship, The regulations of the Nationality Act additionally stipulate that the applicant should have a connection to the Portuguese community. Now, prior to 2017, the burden of proving a connection to the community lay on the citizenship applicant. Now, however, it is up to the state to prove that the applicant does not have a connection to Portugal. Now, the connections requirement have historically not been applied in most non-investment-based naturalization cases, such as naturalization by birth, marriage, or after a long-term employment in the country, because the connection in such cases tend to be self-evident. And for golden visas, however, such ties are typically are not typically self-evident. Now, naturalization applications are first screened by the Central Registry Office. If everything looks good, it's sent to the Ministry of Justice for final approval, and then both entities can refuse your application. In case of a refusal, you can either contest the decision in court or you can reapply again. Now, as mentioned, the golden visa investor doesn't need to prove connections. The burden is on the state to prove that the golden visa investor does not have connections to the Portuguese community, disproving negative. Now, and disproving negative is a notorious more difficult task. If the applicant does absolutely nothing to demonstrate links to Portugal, however, some judges nevertheless interpret that to indicate that zero links between the applicant and the country exist, and use of this as a basis for denying a naturalization application. Now, it's likely that certain judges empowered to employ their personal interpretation of vaguely phrased regulations give golden visa-based naturalization applications additional scrutiny, particularly if they object to the practice which many in Portugal do. Now, such rejections, which remain rare, run counter to what the legislation actually prescribes. Luckily, preventing rejection is not difficult. Now, what can applicants and their advisors do to mitigate this and reduce the risk of rejection? Well, first, take the initiative to forge some plausible links. Remember, the burden is on the state to disprove that you have connections. The law does not explicitly define connections, which leaves room for a great deal of interpretation. Now, but if you don't lift a finger to show connections, the risk of rejection is elevated. So you take a page from the old Malta IP playbook, join a local association, buy season tickets to Benfica games, and register a local business. Spend more time than the bare minimum in the country, or substantiate your argument. Don't make it easy for a judge to reject your naturalization case. But again, this is the gray area. It depends on who's looking at your case. Now, one local lawyer who has successfully helped many golden visa investors naturalize says that she tells her clients they should do something each time they come to Portugal, and that is go to an exhibition and also keep the stub, which is the receipt, make a donation to a local cause, get a gym membership and a library card, and get Portuguese driver's license. Now, in our experience, they talked about here, those pieces of evidence in aggregate are sufficient to demonstrate ties. We can be super creative here. The law does not demand that the applicant live in Portugal. They've said they've had many cases, that they've actually been able to get through without that. Now, you make a donation to a local cause, you get a gym membership, a library card, get a Portuguese driver's license, and those pieces of evidence in aggregate should be sufficient to demonstrate the ties. But the law does not demand that the applicant live in Portugal. And they've said that they've had many successful cases because of citizenship application. In a document-based application, there's no interview. So, if you provide plenty of documentation of your ties to Portugal, neither the Registry Office nor the Ministry of Justice will have reasons to object. Now, yes, golden visa investors can and do get citizenship in Portugal after 5 years, even if they spend only a few weeks in the country over that period and mastered only basic Portuguese. But they must still, make the case that they have some connection, however tenuous, to the country, or risk unpleasant judgment from a finicky official. And again, like I say, you don't know who you're going to get in this, and that's the thing, is trying to get that connection with the community, and is that going to be enough for what you did? Folks, if you want to legally get your income taxes to zero, how to get a second passport as quick as 45 days, do 3 things. Hit the subscribe button at the right of your screen right here and the notification bell next to it. You'll get new videos automatically as they come out. And I would like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, put it below. Number 3 is go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and ask for some help. And if you got any more questions, folks, just shoot us a line. We'll get back with you, and I look forward to talking to you on the next video. Take care.